Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Dave Letterman, and I tell you what, we have a minute or two, so let's just go around the room and have each of you folks stand and introduce yourselves now and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your plans for the future. I used to worry about flying, but I've gotten over that pretty well. I flew in yesterday, and I was in the lavatory, which is a pretty big achievement for me on an aircraft. I noticed in the lavatory there's this sign that says, "Do not put metal or glass objects in the toilet." And, that almost ruins the trip for me, because I like to go back there, wash a load of dishes in it, I got out to the airport, and kind of some embarrassment. Nobody was there to pick me up, and it's all right. So I hitchhiked in, and this guy stops and picks me up. He's driving an old beat-up Dodge with a bent frame to kind of go down the highway at an angle like that. See, the windshield on the right-hand side is missing, and the back seat was on fire. Right away, I'm apprehensive about getting in there, The guy driving the car is wearing a goalie mask and a hospital gown. But what really bothers me, he's rolling the biggest joint I'd ever seen in my entire life. He was using Pampers. You get yourself staying at a wonderful hotel, though, here in town, and they have one of those jacuzzis, a whirlpool bath, you know what those things are? But, boy, it's really a cheap one. When everybody gets in the water, we have to take turns going. How many of you think I look pretty foolish going? Let's all try it once, shall we? Okay. I was sitting around in the room, bored silly, watching some news, and I learned a couple of interesting things. First of all, the most popular newspapers in the world are those ones you buy at the checkout counter of the supermarkets. You folks read those? Last week, big story in this one, headlines, "How to Lose Weight Without Diet or Exercise." Pretty much leaves disease, doesn't it? When you get right down to it. Yes, I was able to lose over 60 pounds without diet or exercise. What's my secret? Well, I was lucky enough to be seriously ill for a year and a half. Every week it's a new diet in there. Lose tons with miracle donut and beer diet. Another interesting topic in those magazines every week is about people who have died and then come back to life. And in fact, there's a movie out now about that called Beyond and Back or something. And they advertise this movie by saying, "You'll meet people who have actually died." I said to myself, boy, this could be almost too much entertainment, They have people saying, "It was wonderful, euphoric, like floating." Like it's a day at Disneyland or something. "Being dead? Oh, it was great. I loved it. Whole family's been dead a couple of times. If I don't die at least once a year, I get cranky." The other thing I learned on the news, one of the main reasons for crime being on the increase now is television game shows. They figure people watch game shows, it makes them very greedy, and then they go out and commit crime. And I think that could be true. About a month ago, I was in my bank, and a guy runs in and holds it up, and he says, "All right, listen up. I got 10 people in here. I'm going to read you a list of my demands. Play it safe, and nobody gets hurt. First of all, I want a $50 gift certificate from the Spiegel Catalog Company. Spiegel, featuring over 50,000 quality gift items." You like game shows? I think they're a lot better than they used to be. More exciting, anyway. I saw one Tuesday afternoon. The guy says, "All right, Mrs. Timmons, you've selected our most difficult category, things that don't belong in potato salad. Here's how we play. I'll read you a list of ingredients. You tell me what doesn't belong in potato salad. You're the new Prime Minister of Canada. Ready? Here we go." I like the commercials on daytime TV. They're pretty exciting. I like the way they represent families. There's this one for a cooking oil. 3 people in the kitchen. You have Mom, Dad, and the little kid. And Dad, like a jerk, says, "Hey, what's our little skeptic up to today?" Mom gets real excited. She says, "Why, she's frying a loaf of bread in cooking oil." Yes, sir, it does my heart good to see a family who knows how to get the most out of their food dollar, Go to the grocery store, spend 80 cents on a loaf of bread, bring it home, let your kid fry it in a quart of oil. And then what do we do with a loaf of fried bread? "Hi, honey, I'm home. Boy, I'm starved. Geez, we got any of that fried bread left? Why don't you heat up some root beer? We'll have a party, okay?" Of course, about 40% all advertising time on radio and TV is utilized by fast food places. Colonel Sanders, you know, was one of the first to advertise. The last couple of years, they've been selling ribs, you know. Who wants to eat chicken ribs? One of these days, you'll be hearing, yeah, the Colonel's got beaks. Take some coleslaw, some mashed potatoes, and what the heck, give us a bucket of beaks, all right? Hey, how about a bag of feathers for the kids? Advertising on TV is really silly, but it's very effective, and as an indication of this, last year, fewer people than ever before passed away. Yep. As a result of that, cemeteries and funeral homes panicked. They honestly thought they could improve their business by advertising on television. Isn't that an amazing piece of logic? Hi there. Forest Lawn would like a word with you folks over 90. Hey, what are you waiting for? Why don't you pack it up and come on home, huh? Thank you, folks. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
Oh, good.
Besides writing for yourself, you also write for other comedians.
Yes, I've written for a couple of the big ones. I've written for Joey Bishop. Well, lately, Francis Fox. I wrote some things for him. I've been all over the hotel signing his name to things. I figure if he's... And I just, right now, I'm actually, in fact, I'm supposed to be home because they could call me any minute from Australia. They're taping the Bob Hope Australia special. And they took all of Bob's writers but me. They said, you better stay home and take care of things here. And if you think of anything funny, we'll call you. So, but I wrote on that show, and I didn't get to go on the trip. I've written for Jimmy Walker, you know. Mm-hmm. And
when you write for these people, how do you try and match their style to what you're doing, because they're all so different?
Yeah, well, when I'm writing for anybody, it's kind of a standard procedure. If I come up with anything funny, I keep that for myself. And then they get the junk, whatever it is.
Do you watch a J.J. Walker over and over and over and get his pacing and what kind of humor works for you?
Yeah, essentially, the nice thing about working with comedians who have been in the business for a long time, like Joey Bishop, for instance, I wrote for him one week when he hosted The Tonight Show, and all they're really interested in is the funny part of the joke. They can take a list of 20 jokes, take a look at it, and immediately figure out how they would do it. They know if it's funny. They look at number 3. Oh, that's number 3. Here's how I would do it. So all they're looking for really is the funny aspect of it. They can put it into their own words or, rearrange it however it needs to be done.
How do you come up with something new? I mean, they seem to know thousands and thousands of jokes and routines.
Yeah, it's very difficult. That's a lot of people don't realize that, but accumulating new material is a very arduous task. It takes a great deal of discipline. You have to sit down and write every day. And even then, I think Woody Allen, who probably, when he was doing a lot of stand-up, writes or did write some of the best jokes ever. And he said if he got 1 joke out of 10 that worked, he felt that was a pretty high percentage. And 10% efficiency in other walks of life is not that good.
What do you do? Do you look around at what's happening in daily life and get ideas?
Yeah, I look for real stupid things. For instance, like the shirt you're wearing now.
Don't you like my shirt?
I do like your shirt. It's quite nice. And, well, they've misspelled it.
What do you think of your tie?
Well, I tell you what, Otto, if they don't let you stay in Canada, let me give you my name and number. When you get to the United States.
Where do you test your material besides on 90 Minutes Live?
That's interesting. In Los Angeles, and I find out there's some places like that here, maybe more for musical talent, but in Los Angeles, there's a place called the Comedy Store, which you may have heard of, and it's nothing but comedians 7 nights a week, and it's a real good test ground for material.
You go in and you try something out.
You go in and you try out the material, and then the fun part about it is hanging around with the other comedians, and a couple of whom you've had on this show before, And it's like a whole subculture, and we get together and we talk about how do you think I can make this funny, is that funny, or you're doing my joke, or this, that, and the other. And it's a real, it gets to be interesting, and you get to hit on a lot of chicks. I mean...
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be in news.
I used to be in news. I was Eyewitness News. You know the concept of Eyewitness News?
Yes, I know Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News, for those of you who don't know, is make the news as funny as possible. And
You're not planning to go back, I take it.
no, I just for a while it's silly anymore because they where I worked in Indianapolis, Indiana, one day there were 3 murders in the city. And the news director didn't think it would be real amusing to have the anchorman report all 3 murders back to back, you know. So they gave one to the sportscaster to do. The guy is reading baseball scores at the time. He says, well, first in the National League, it was the Mets over the Braves 3-2. Reds got past the Cards 5-4, and the Dodgers murdered the Giants 9-0. Speaking of murders, looks like 45-year-old Eddie Poster won't be going out to the old ballpark anymore. Too silly.
Do you think that news has changed a lot since the years that you did it?
Yeah, I can remember, I'm 30, and I can remember when I first became aware of television. I don't know how old I was, but then it was more of a journalistic event. It was, you had sound reporting and so on and so forth. Now it seems like you get more feature-oriented news. You get less hard news. You get, like everybody in Los Angeles looks like Barbie and Ken doing the news, you know? And you miss all of the real factual hard news stories. As a result, you hear things like, no more oxygen for planet Earth. Well, we'll have details on that a little bit later, but right now, Arlene has a fascinating story about your cat's #1 problem, fur balls. Yeah, so you miss a lot of the real, I think, and they can color the news one way or the other by the personalities they choose.
Yeah, it's become a ratings game.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, I think the last of those individuals would be perhaps at some of the networks, and they may be on their way out, you know, because they've been there forever and ever. So it's all changing.
You mentioned game shows in your routine. I know that you just did a pilot as a host of one.
Yes, I did. I did hosted a pilot for a game show, which may or may not be on. You never know. And I don't know. It's real interesting. A very interesting mentality about game
Why
shows.
did you do it?
I did it essentially because it involved a free trip to New York, and I thought, how many times do I get a chance to go to New York for free? And then it turned out to be a kind of really interesting game, so I have mixed emotions about it. If it goes on the air, I think it'll be a lot of fun, but then again, game shows sometimes are just dismissed as being wasted time on the network. So we'll see what happens.
Well, good luck with it. Thank you for joining us
Thank you very
tonight.
much.
Dave Letterman.